mask off right now. I can't begin to describe how that feels. I am really excited for this next section. I had a chance to chat with you a couple of days ago, and really inspiring to have her with us today. So let me first start by just providing a very short background on Sue. She wanted it that way. She didn't want to have a long, drawn-out review of her background, which is extensive. So we'll summarize this way. Sue Bai is a Chief Engineer and Division Director at Honda Research Institute. That's in the United States. She currently holds a group that supports, leads a group that supports Honda's transportation safety and mobility goals through connectivity and automation. Sue is a PhD candidate focusing on automated vehicle human factors at the University of Michigan. Welcome, Sue, to our conference today. It's a pleasure to have you with us. There's a couple of questions that I didn't share with you the other day. I thought I'd maybe make things a little dynamic for today. So first is, I know you've been to Ottawa. What's your favorite thing about Ottawa, Sue?
Well, I'd say the Parliament tour. I squeezed myself in the last minute, and the guard was very accommodating. I told him I'm from Detroit. This is my only chance since I don't come to Ottawa often. And he looked at me and said, I think the Canadian people are nicer. That's my summary.
Fantastic. Now, there is one more question I'm going to ask you at the very end. I am inspired by you and your background. And one thing that I like to ask when I meet inspiring leaders is, who inspired you? So if you want to think about that a little bit, you don't have to answer me at the end. But if there is somebody in your career that inspired you along the way, I'd love to know who that person is and what inspired you about that engagement.
That person, there were actually 3 persons share the same last name. I had the fortune to work all within Honda, but my previous boss, Yoichi Sugimoto-san, he is a executive chief engineer in Japan, leading the automated vehicle development. The level 3 automated vehicle deployment in Japan, starting this past April, was under his leadership.
Wow.
He's my inspiration. Every time I see him, I always tell him he's my favorite boss.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. So let me provide a little context for the conversation that we'll have. This is the final part of our day, and the context that we wanted to get into is, we know that vehicle to everything capability is not a new area of technological capability. In fact, it's kind of a tech solution looking for a business case. And what I mean by that is, on the one hand, you've got car manufacturers and OEMs that frankly, what would motivate them to put all of this technology in the cars if there isn't infrastructure available to actually tap into that? And if you consider how cities are set up to receive this, why would you put the infrastructure in unless the cars have it? And so I'd go further to say that the way the technology works currently, a company like Honda would have to actually set it up for car-to-car communication, so vehicle to vehicle, which is interesting, but not as useful unless you have all of the other manufacturers lined up using the same kind of platform. So the context of our conversation is really around the state of this technology. There's been a few ripples in the environment over the last few years. Specifically, we are seeing a few of the companies show up with DSRC or CV2X in their vehicles, and I'll describe those in a moment. So we are seeing movement, and the questions that we'll get into really are around what's driving this and what do we think is going to happen. This is part of our final session, and I'm excited to engage. So let me first ask the first question then, Sue, just to get things rolling.
Sure.
So if I consider perhaps some of the early players on this, so Ford has announced CV2X in their cars for next year. And then on the other hand, we have Volkswagen. The Golf already has cars with DSRC in them. So you're seeing a bit of that happening. We have several others, of course, in their roadmap overall. What is driving it now? What do you see being the driving force right now?
Well, I think until FCC made the unfortunate decision of giving away the V2X spectrum in the US, there was a driving force. Currently, I'm afraid I can't really talk much about the existence of a driving force in the US in terms of a direct communication. And that has a lot to do with the FCC decisions. So that's, I wish I have a better answer for your question.
Yeah, I think the obviously without the regulations being in place to actually take advantage of these technologies, like one thing that is certainly happening is we're seeing a lot of testing, we're seeing a lot of trialing. A lot of what we do at AreaX.0 in particular is in and around testing out these technologies along a variety of projects. And I will come back to the question of spectrum, because I do think that that is quite a ripple in what is happening in the environment right now. So we'll come back to that particular item. So what would be the benefit of various OEMs actually working on this, even if it's only in a handful of places? So let's say there's a few locations. When you think of the other players in the marketplace, how do you engage with them? What's the advantages to the players that may in fact get involved with these sorts of technologies at this point?
Well, I think I was one of the engineers among a group of major OEMs in the US to start researching the V2X direct communication technology. From early days, we realized even though we were competitors, this technology requires interoperability. Therefore, all the major players need to speak the same language. And that worked out really well. Over the past more than 10 years of research, we have established the standards, and Honda particularly led some of these standards development. We actually realized the infrastructures is really the critical element in the early deployment to bring the early benefit when the vehicle's density takes even decades to mature. Honda funded and supported the V2I messages. I think some of the Canadian pilot, including the US one and Canadian one, even in Europe and China, the famous signal phase and timing and the map messages, those are actually funded by Honda through Society of Automotive Engineers, because we see this has to be, it shouldn't be a chicken and egg problem. It should be infrastructure and OEM moving together. From that sense, Honda has started working with Ohio state government to deploy hundreds of vehicles equipped with this technology, while the Ohio government populating their densely placed V2X infrastructure.
That's helpful to understand that. And if we break down how Honda looks at this from a strategy perspective, working in a commingled environment like the environment you just described is one thing. Would you say that Honda works more directly with the Qualcomms of the world rather than the other OEMs? Or do you think that the direct communication with the other car manufacturers is also a regular part of the engagement to make this market move?
We maintain the leadership in standards deployment or development. For example, the cooperative ACC standards in the US that we are going through the final publishing stage, that's led by an engineer in my office. And that's also have a lot of other OEMs input and effort in there in the past number of years. We also engage more closely with the Ohio Department of Transportation to encourage them and support their infrastructure deployment. So I think there's a two side. We work with our competitors on V2V, and also on V2I, we work with the state government to hopefully have a larger scale infrastructure deployment. We also are continuing with a collaboration with Verizon Wireless to explore different technology that may be able to achieve a similar goal or enhance the capability.
That's really helpful to understand. Obviously, the dynamic between all of the players matters if you want to move a market.
Yes.
It's important to have that really move forward aggressively if we're going to make it happen. One of the things that I wanted to ask you this afternoon, obviously there's a lot of new entrants that are looking at what is ahead. I mean, Karmacar doesn't have to worry about 40 years or more of history in the automotive sector. They get to start with a clean sheet of paper. On the other hand, organizations like Honda also have years of understanding how to engage regulators, supply chains that are in place. When you think about this, what advantages do you think Honda and perhaps other OEMs have, given the state of where this market is, as we look forward to more safety capability and then ultimately more and more autonomy capability in the market?
I think in terms of advantage, the OEMs have is one of them is the collaboration spirit that has been demonstrated and worked really well since the early 2000, where these handful of engineers from major OEMs decided to get together to, instead of competing, we stick with the same goal, which is to make an interoperable system to benefit the society by improving safety and mobility. For Honda, we are in a very unique position. Honda has a wide range of products, from the four-wheel cars, two-wheel motorcycles. We produce lawnmowers, marine products, aircrafts. So I hear there's a trend of talking about 3D transportation. Our products have a very large landscape that touches almost every aspect of people's life. I think that's definitely an advantage we are taking to understand what can we do to improve people's life in a holistic view, not just a car that can do.
That's great to understand that. Obviously, Honda has a broad capability to bring to bear in these markets as they emerge. Which companies do you watch? I'm sort of interested in knowing whether it's OEMs or providers of technology that go into the cars as you look ahead to the world of connectivity and autonomy and safety and so on.
Oh, of course, we keep an eye on the competitors, but I think the definition of a competitors are changing almost by the hours. There are certainly newcomers bringing very fascinating technologies. Those may not be as matured and may still need more validation, but we certainly can learn from their very quick way of cycling new products and bringing new technology in a very timely manner. And we also have very close relationship with suppliers on the research level, not just a parts sourcing level, because the tier one supplier particularly, they see much more than we do. We see Honda most of the time. They have interactions with all their major consumers and customers, which may be our competitors, may be our customers as well. I think establishing a very trustworthy relationship with tier one, tier two suppliers is also very essential for moving the technology forward together.
Yeah, I definitely want to maintain very direct contact right across the board here, given how competitive this market is.
Yes.
I want to go back to a statement or a comment that you made earlier. So we know that the FCC has made some changes to 5.9 gigahertz spectrum, which obviously that's where DSRC resides. So they've removed a whole bunch of spectrum. What does that mean in terms of the future of DSRC? Obviously, the other capability here is CV2X. What are your thoughts on that? Where is this going to take us?
I think what FCC removed is not only the spectrum, it mostly is the potential to grow the technology for automation and other higher level functions that will eventually lead to a collision-free society. And this is, for example, the automated vehicle platooning and protecting non-vehicle road users such as pedestrians, motorcycles, micromobility devices. The current spectrum is not enough to have all these devices sending and receiving messages in a relatively clean environment. We call that congestion mitigation, that needs enough spectrum to make sure everyone can talk and can still hear each other. By limiting the spectrum, it basically cut off the potential of the technology growth. And that's what I think is most harmful.
It's unfortunate to see that. Now, when you think about that and you think about how to actually equip vehicles going forward, is there a case to be made to continue with DSRC and CV2X in the same vehicles? This seems like a costly plan forward.
It is, because the spectrum limitation is also limiting the function in the vehicle. we put a device in, if it can only do one thing, then we have to think of what the customer is benefiting. If that channel is only for vehicle to vehicle, where does the infrastructure information come from? If there is no accommodation for infrastructure which bring the day one benefit, then should we be looking for alternatives? And that is one of the reasons we reached out to Verizon Wireless in M-City as a consortium. We started working with Verizon Wireless about 2 years ago and produced a very valid prototype to show using 5G V2X, the mobile edge computing, the similar function can be achieved in a test track level. We're also discussing with state DOTs and to see if there's a potential to deploy this on a pilot base in a real environment.
Thank you for that. That's helpful. I want to shift gears a little bit. I think we all know that autonomy doesn't require specifically V2X technology, and a good example of that is Tesla, who basically use vision-only systems at this point. When you think about that, what is the case for V2X in autonomous? And I think maybe to get at that, maybe you can tell us about your work in the Ohio Smart Mobility Corridor and the Honda Safe Swarm program. If you could maybe perhaps bring us up to speed on that.
Right. I often make an analogy of the ultimate safety product compared to the healthcare. In healthcare, there's an emergency room visit versus a preventative care. And you exercise, you eat healthier, you have a regular doctor check, then you don't even go into the final situation where you have a major diagnosis. It's similar to the safety. The vision-based or onboard system-based system often wait till the last minute, and there is a unavoidable situation the vehicle has to take action. With the V2X, whether it's a short range or mid-range, the system would be able to give enough heads-up information to the vehicles and or to the drivers. So the vehicles may be able to reroute to avoid getting into a potential conflict situation. I consider that almost like a conflict elimination instead of avoidance. And that is not something that onboard system can do because the onboard sensor has a limited range of detection. And they probably won't be able to support this type of long range detection and giving the vehicles or drivers enough time to consider alternatives.
Yeah, it's not either or. It's probably V2X and other technologies to make this autonomous revolution really possible.
Right. I think for a full autonomy and still make the driving environment efficient and safer, connectivity is a very essential piece of that. And that leads to what we did in Ohio, where we established a smart intersection or several smart intersections by now. We started in 2018. And the concept is to use infrastructure to sense unequipped road users, including the vehicles and the pedestrians, and digitize their information and transmit them over the air. So even if you're the only vehicle that has the V2X technology, you can immediately benefit from it as if the entire intersection is fully connected with you with interoperability. And that solves the blind spot problem when there's a pedestrian maybe coming behind a bus, and physically you won't be able to see the pedestrian, but digitally you would know there is a pedestrian coming and you need to slow down. These are the functions the onboard system would not be able to cover.
It's so exciting to hear you talk about this because we have just begun a project specifically on smart intersections here in Ottawa. That was the subject of our first panel this morning. So knowing that Honda's been working on this for a number of years is encouraging. We'll certainly look forward to comparing notes with you as our project unfolds. So those are the main questions that I had. I'm just going to check and see if we've got some audience questions. And we do. So what are the biggest R&D hurdles for AVs at the moment?
Well, there are certainly technical challenges. For example, I think the automation, the definition of from level 3 to level 4, there's a big hurdle, and the reliability, and that's engineers are working days and nights to try to solve it. One of the challenges on the regulatory side for the US is the variation of state by state, which would make the deployment of an automated system across the country very difficult, because we would have to address the regulation and the potential certification process by each state. And that can be a very complicated process for any OEM to go through. We are, anytime we have a chance, we voice this concern to the federal government, US DOT. I think they're also working hard to try to address this as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's managing and coordinating and dealing with all of the various regulatory requirements at all levels. Yeah, that could be a massive challenge.
Yes. Another one is, I think, the consumer expectation.
Yeah.
When we deployed the level 3 system in Japan this April, there's a tremendous amount of effort putting into conduct a dealer education so that they can convey what the system can or cannot do to the consumers adequately. Otherwise, people may have a inadequate expectation and may misuse the system. I think some of the accident from some automakers in the past a number of years is a good indication of how the consumers may not fully understand the system's capability and its design intention.
Yeah, that's helpful. And actually, that's one of the reasons why we got into the project business at Area X.0, is to be able to bring together the regulatory bodies, industry big and small, and also academia to help us to work through these things. So we're not just tackling a commercial requirement or a research requirement or a social requirement. We're looking at all of them together, which would allow us to advance the idea much faster. Yes. So we are very excited about those opportunities. See if we have any other questions. What do you see as the greatest achievement at Honda so far?
Well, there are quite a long list. I think the smart intersections it's a world first, and also our great relationship with the city of Marysville, city of Dublin, Ohio State University, and particularly Ohio DOT. That's I would say what I'm most proud of is the collaboration spirit that we established and be part of it in Ohio, that made this pilot US 33 Smart Mobility Corridor a very successful program, because it has a major OEM and a major road operators and the regional government's strong support.
That really resonates with me. We ran a pilot here in Ottawa last year, which included Transport Canada, the Ministry of Transportation in Ontario, to run the first low-speed autonomous shuttle on public roads. And having their support made it possible. Without it, it would not have happened.
Exactly.
So that really resonates with me a lot.
Yes.
Another question that came in, I like this one. I can't wait to hear your answer to this one. So what do you think of Apple's claim to get to L5 by 2025?
Well, I think by 2025, we probably...
It's like one of these with wheels on it, right?
I mean, the definition of L5, if it's in the limited environment, that may be a possible goal. But I think there's again, the consumer expectation, education, regulatory, and the technology are still probably have some work to do.
If you're only limited to the technology, right? I think. Oh yeah, this is an important one. How does Honda engage SMEs and entrepreneurs?
Well, we have an organization called the Honda Innovation that have a very strong relation with startups, and I have colleagues in our office that's an interface between our activity and the Honda Accelerator globally. I know the people's name. If you need a contact information, I can certainly help connect you with that team.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. Yeah, we knew that there would be an arm of Honda that would be engaged in that. That'd be wonderful. Sue, I think with that, are there any other things that you wanted to share with our audience while we have everybody here?
Oh, wow. I think of what I'm most proud of. I think another one is Honda produced the world first personal safety message international standards through Society of Engineers. And I think that's personally, that's one of my most proud output. Back in 2017, when I started writing that standards, there were people laughing at it, saying this would never work. Why are we talking about pedestrians? This technology is designed for cars. But looking forward, 4 years past, this message has been widely used in not only US, but also Canada and Europe and China with a variation. But most of these other regions' messages all based on the 2017 release of the world first personal safety message standard. By using that, we are not only addressing the vehicle safety, but also are empowering the pedestrians, cyclists, people with disabilities, and micromobility device users to become more aware of the surrounding and be seen digitally easier by other vehicles.
I really like that one. So it's a moonshot, which always starts with market ridicule.
Right. Yeah. I figured I usually tell myself if everyone liked the idea, it's too old.
Let me ask you maybe an obscure question. So we have a company in the city called Telesat, and they're in the midst of rolling out something which we think is going to have a huge impact on Canada, even at an economic level. So they have a low Earth orbiting satellite platform that they're deploying. It's world-class. It's exciting. When you think of LEOS and you think of 5G and you think of what you're doing, do you see room for low Earth orbiting satellite technology in some way playing a role with the vehicle to everything strategy?
I'm not very familiar with the technology. I remember reading about satellite devices that provide internet coverage, but that's pretty much the limitation of my knowledge of that.
It's pretty new. It's pretty new. So,
oh, okay. I need to study more before I can answer.
It's all good. Sue, this has been a most fascinating conversation with you. I want to, on behalf of our community, I want to thank you very much for your insights and for spending time with us today. Really do appreciate it very much, and we look forward to staying in touch with you.
It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to share Honda's activity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
What an incredible day we have had. Michael, thank you so much. Sue, such a tremendous privilege to welcome you to our community. We certainly will follow up with you. We have many entrepreneurs and SMEs that would love to get engaged with Honda, so thank you very much for that kind offer. It's hard to believe we're coming now to the end of an incredible day. I'm just going to see if my friend Jamie is going to come back online. I think she's still at Hub 350, and we are going to close out the day together. What a day. I am so inspired by every single panel, all of the speakers. Moonshots are something that really resonated with me. The courage, the tenacity, thinking big, being bold. That was perhaps one of my greatest takeaways from today. And it's left me with many ideas. So be prepared, Michael. We're going to have some big discussions, I think, at ELT on Monday. With that, I'm just going to see if Jamie is with us. It does not look like she was able to stay. So I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today at the 4th CAV Canada Conference. And as we draw to a close, we extend sincere thanks to all of the participants, to all of the speakers, to our incredible sponsors for joining us. It was an honor to welcome safely 50 randomly selected participants here at Bayview Yards throughout the day, our innovation hub, with all the health and safety protocols in place. Thank you for being such a generous and obedient audience with respect to making sure that everyone in our community stays healthy and safe. And of course, the hundreds who joined us throughout the day online from across our region and around the world. To all of the speakers who took time, some of whom joined us here in person and others who joined us online, thank you for sharing your experience and your wealth of knowledge with everyone. And to our sponsors, our Trailblazer sponsor, BlackBerry QNX, whom we collaborate with so consistently, our innovation sponsors, Invest in Canada and Ross Video, and of course, our connector sponsor, Ottawa Tourism. We look forward to promoting all of the recorded content that you saw here today very broadly. And this will include some video footage tomorrow of small, safe, managed tours that we are hosting at AreaX.O. We have a handful of spots available in the final session that we have just opened up. If you are in the Ottawa area and you would like to be a part of those tours, please reach out to us and let us know. You can drop a line in the chat. I see my friend Jamie, who's just joined us from Hub 350. Welcome back, Jamie.
Hello, how are you?
We're well. We were just ruminating on the incredible day. I'd love to hear a few observations from you about what you took away from today before I wrap up with a few words of thanks to the team.
I think just, first and foremost, the collaboration that's happening across our ecosystem, it's really resonated, and the global reach that we're now experiencing as a result of all of the great work that's happening here in Ottawa and across the Canadian CAV industry. So that's certainly something that's resonated with me. I mean, personally, participating in the talent discussion today and hearing from folks across Ottawa and across Canada, and even, as far as Silicon Valley, it doesn't matter. We're all experiencing the same challenges and opportunities, which are, the desire to attract talent into our high-performing companies. So again, I go back to collaboration and just how we have this opportunity to work together to, rise up a new generation of talent to work on these really impactful solutions, while also, nurturing the talent that's already here in our ecosystem. And I think just finally, the really exciting opportunities that we have now based on all of the amazing work that we've done in our local ecosystem here to test, the solutions that are researched and developed in Ottawa, that next opportunity to begin deploying those solutions and put them in our living environment, and really showcase the art of the possible in a way that's going to be compelling and exciting for investment, for talent, and for the companies of the future. So I'm sure I have many notes of people to thank, but I think the first primary organization to recognize is Invest Ottawa and the AreaX.O team for your incredible leadership in bringing this amazing event together, and for bringing subject matter experts and thought leaders from across our Ottawa ecosystem, our country, and around the world, whether that's the solutions experts, the OEMs, the folks that are managing the talent pipeline. It was a really diverse and broad audience that we had here with us at CAV Canada, and Sonia, you especially, with Patrick, have made all of that magic happen this year. So grateful to you both.
And we are grateful to you for your partnership. Thank you to you and your team. This is our fourth event, and there will be many, many more to come, and so many big achievements and opportunities within our ecosystem and our national and global community. I'm really, really passionate about the concept of one world, that we really are one global community driving forward to facilitate the safe adoption of CAVs. And just in a few months from now, we will be beginning the testing of many innovations for the Safe Smart Intersections project funded by Transport Canada, just outside the door that you are sitting at right now in our public track. So that will be an exciting day and something that certainly we will be engaging all of you in. We have a few winners to announce before I just do a few final words of thanks. Tourism, our sponsor today, had gift boxes, and many competed for them at the end of each session. Here are the winners: JP Willett, Vivek Yadav, Thurston Falconer, Dion Bates, Yang Hong, Josie Tate, and Sharon Abdelhamid. We will be in touch with you, and your gift boxes, all curated with specially locally purchased goods, will be on their way to you, hopefully just in time for the holiday season. And thank you again to Tourism for making that possible. As we wrap up, an event like this certainly is a very, very heavy lift. It's a huge collaborative effort, and I personally want to thank the amazing team at Invest, Bayview, and AreaX.O for working tirelessly for at least 3 months on the success of CAV Canada. It was a privilege, and it is a privilege to collaborate with you. You architected and delivered this event, and I'm incredibly grateful. Patrick Kenny was our fearless leader for CAV Canada this year. Thank you, PK, for all of your dedication, your leadership, and your tireless efforts. So many fingerprints all over this event from you, and thank you for making it a success. Samantha White, our event manager, of course. Hybrid events are tricky, and I know we had a few little bits and pieces during the day today with our audio. We are working through those together with you as a community, and very grateful. We had Jamie at Hub 350. We are here at Bayview, and we had so many speakers from across the country and around the world. We're grateful for all of your hard work, Sam, making today a success. Our corporate communications team, Lindsay Kavanaugh, Kelsey Burns, Gray Brom, Courtney Delora, and Megan Lawrence, just an incredible rebrand of this event and so much promotion that drove the 550 that were registered today. Thank you so, so much. And that, of course, was done in collaboration with members of our marketing team, Adam Kashavi, Trevor Kerr, and Jennifer Provo. Our AreaX.O team. So tomorrow, when we host all of these tours, you'll have an opportunity to either meet them in person or see them in the video footage that we release. They're an incredible team and very hardworking. Kelly Days, Suzanne Cork, Divi Cambodge, Tannis Thaverai, Rebecca Thompson, and Rachel Petra. And of course, under Mike's leadership, just a privilege to be involved. And Mike, your leadership in actually bringing that vision for AreaX.O to bear for our community and for our country is amazing. It will be a legacy and something that will change the face of our economy. I really do believe that. Our Bayview team, of course, hosting us here at Lisa Houston, Patrick Orser, who was working all of the tech today, again, all the learnings for the hybrid events. Thank you, Patrick, for being such a trooper and a champion. Peter Moore doing our photography, and Richard Quigley, and our sponsorship team, Tracy Jones and Kelly Crow, who helped to bring in so many of those valued sponsors that we had with us today. Mike and our ELT, of course, for all your vision and leadership and trust in allowing us to pursue the big, bold moonshots that we're pursuing with all of our partners and companies and innovators in our community. Thank you, everyone. Please be safe, stay healthy, enjoy your evening. And one last call, we have a few spots for the tours that are taking place tomorrow at noon at AreaX.O. Drop a line into the chat and we will accommodate as many as possible.
Sonia, thank you for your leadership, honestly. Today was your baby. You've been working on this for months. It takes leadership for an event like today to happen. And so thank you for that. You had big ambition for it and it happened. Thank you.
Team effort.
Thanks, everyone.